I was almost 300 pounds, man. I was 290. I hadn't weighed myself for a month after that. So I knew I was 290 plus, and not feeling good, depressed, this was after COVID. So put on 30, 40, 50 pounds during COVID.
Yep.
Like we were talking about drinking all the time, drinking whiskey like every night.
Yeah.
My wife was pregnant, so we're eating cookies and ice cream, I'm drinking whiskey, you know what I mean?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Depressed, like down in the dumps, like what's going on? My business was like folding because of COVID and stuff. My clients were like pulling all their marketing budgets out, and it's like, oh my gosh.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the MTNTOUGH Podcast. Thanks for coming back week after week and listening to these episodes. We appreciate each and every one of you so much, and it is our goal to bring you interesting guests week after week that are specifically focused on mindset, mental toughness, life transformation. Thanks for coming back and listening, and thanks for making us the top mental toughness podcast in the country. There's been a lot going on at MTNTOUGH lately. We have launched 2 new products in the app. Make sure you check those out. If you don't have the app yet, you can check out all these programs on a 14-day free trial. But we just launched FormLab. FormLab is a masterclass on all your major lifts. So this is from Coach Donnie Bigham. Donnie's an amazing human, and Donnie is a powerlifting world champion. So Donnie visited the lab and helped us create curriculum on your deadlift, your squat, your bench, your pull-ups, even your rucking and running to help you take your physical fitness to a whole new level by cleaning up some of your form, cues, and techniques. It's a phenomenal series of videos that you can dive into anytime you're looking for help and to improve any specific lifts that you might be struggling with at home. Also, you may have heard we also have Mindset 2.0 now, 2.0 out now with Phil Cornerchuck. 2.0 is all mental toughness curriculum. So if you want to take your mindset to that whole new level, make sure you open up Mindset 2.0 and dive into that one. Now, shifting gears into the episode for this week. The episode for this week, Weston Paul, our head of business development here at MTNTOUGH, sits down with Collin Cottrell. This is an insane story. Collin was out in Montana getting ready to run the Crazy Mountain 100. This is certainly in the top 5 most difficult 100-milers in the country. It was brand new last year through the crazy mountains of Montana. This is steep, nasty, scree-filled mountain range. And Collin was out, swung by the lab to sit down with Weston and share his story. He has a crazy life transformation story. Collin actually shed over 100 pounds in his journey to reinvent himself and get his faith and his family and his lifestyle back on track. So he dropped 100 pounds. This isn't his first 100-miler, and you're not going to want to miss his story. It is a true inspiration. So stand by to dive in with Weston.
On the topic of NAs and athletic brewing, did you get the Athletic Light? Did you try the Athletic Light?
That's the first one I tried.
It's so good.
For a light beer, I was like, this tastes like a real good light beer. But it's craft brew, I guess. Yeah. That's what they say anyway. So I was like,
summertime,
man,
non-alcoholic beer.
I know.
I'm like, it's so awesome. Good.
It's nice to have that option for guys who don't want to drink and want to be healthy and don't, they still want to enjoy the taste of it, which I always have enjoyed the taste. I mean, not always, but, for a long time, I've enjoyed that microbrew craft beer taste, so it's like, man, there's got to be something out there. And then obviously I got the ads and tried it, and this is amazing. Wow.
I know. I'm like, to order them up and then have them like I was saying, like with a good elk steak, like a good IPA.
Yes.
But I'm like, the thing about like beer for me is, especially in the evening when you're trying to like chill out and the kids are running around and
relax, stuff. Yep.
Like after dinner, I just turn into a blob. Like I'm like, I just want to go to bed. Like, but no, I should like wrestle with the boys.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Like, and that was one thing with the alcohol that, I recognized, and I was like, athletic brewing totally fit, and tastes so good, and I can still wrestle. I'm not a blob,
and you can still do your thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you're still waking up in the morning feeling good. Not missing your workout or whatever, missing your run or whatever,
or sleeping through the night.
Yeah,
I'm like it's automatic because it's not like I don't drink. Like I still have a beer or whatever, a beverage with friends but I recognize it. I notice it right away because I'll pop awake like at 2 a.m. And I'm like, why am I awake? It's totally alcohol.
Yeah. Like I could feel within the first month of quitting, I quit back in October during hunting season last year. Within the first month, I could tell a difference in my brain, like in my health, in my and I'm training hard. I'm running. I'm, I'm pretty dedicated to my, what I'm doing. But even just in my brain, like I felt something. It was like totally different. And I was like, whoa, like there's something going on here. Like these new reports, Huberman, all these guys, what they're talking about. There's definitely something here because I could feel it.
Totally.
So I don't know if you've tried to detox off for like 6 months or a couple months. Like you'll feel a difference.
So like my path for me, like I'm all in on one thing, and when something's not working, I'm just like cut it out. Yeah. Like gone, done. Yep. Like, and so like during COVID, when I found Athletic Brewing, my wife and I, it was like April, and she's like, let's do dry May. Like, and I was like, she said that like mid-April. I was like, let's start now. I literally like went, cracked all the beers in the fridge, dumped them down the drain, ordered Athletic Brews. So I had those coming because I'm like, I just love the flavor. Like exactly. I love it. And just like went on that path and then tried them out. And then like gave them to friends too, because I'm like, it's a really good thing. People don't know it's there to try it out. But the reason I was so quick to do that is because running, like over the years, the longer the race, the earlier I cut out alcohol. Yeah. So like, I'm like, I'll cut it out because one, I want to look forward to the end of race beer. And it's like a carrot dangling in front of me. And two, I know the side effects. Like it really does interfere with my training. Yeah. So, and then closer to the race, it's just really hard for me. I cut out coffee too, so that I have no caffeine in my system whatsoever. So,
that's a tough one too. Like I don't drink a ton of coffee, but I have started to cut out the coffee, and I'll do more like I was drinking that Jocko Fuel, and that doesn't have as much of the caffeine. It's got like 85 grams in it. And I really have cut out a lot of the soda, even the diet soda. Even though it's it's not as bad as drinking regular soda. I like that carbonation feel though. You know what I mean? So it's like, man, what else can I do instead of doing the soda or doing these energy drinks and even just the carbonated water now, like the seltzers and stuff? Like, man, it's like you can go and there's like 100 different brands doing it with different flavors, and some of these are like really, really good. I'm like, man, and they're some of them have a little bit of whatever agave in it or something to sweeten it or whatever. Some of the Reb M or whatever, and I'm like, man, this is awesome. Like we live in like the greatest time now.
Oh, totally.
All the options.
Well, I'm like, you're in Texas too, so it's like home of Topo Chico.
Exactly.
Like that stuff is.
But it's hard to find now. It's
really
because people are like they bring it home and like store it in their shop in their office and stuff, and like they like pull it off the shelves because it's like it's hard to find. It's crazy, man.
It's
it's weird.
Like, the carbonation.
So many options. Yeah,
it's so good.
It's amazing. Yeah, I love it.
After a hot day. No, I love that, Collin, too. Like just like the theme of like, let's go on this path. Let's try something out too. And I met you at Winter Strong. Yeah. You're kind of the first person I met there.
And because we were at the Sornex,
the Sornex headquarters.
Yeah, the HQ.
And I was like, I think somewhere along your path, I had followed you on Instagram. So I knew who you were, just never met you before. But like instant, like talk about running.
Well, I didn't know that you were an ultra runner too. And I was like, dude, this guy can talk my language. I can learn from this guy.
let's talk about doing silly things and running for like long distances for long periods of time. But you're here in Montana now because you're going to run the Crazy Mountain 100, right?
That's right.
That's coming up
back in Montana.
Friday morning.
Yeah.
So
Friday, it's coming quick.
Dude, I'm so stoked for you. It's coming. And
no, man, I'm pumped, man.
Start that thing. Dude. Go check out
you know more about that thing than I do. So I've been like deep diving, researching, listening to podcasts. It was on my radar for the last year. Since last year, I saw Cam and a few others ran it, and I was like, oh man, that thing looks awesome. And kind of my background is, I lived here in Bozeman for about 3 years back in 2009, 2010, 2011.
Yep.
And so this is like my second home. So I'm thinking like, how cool would that be to like go back home in a sense, and run that? I've been up in those mountains before, hiking and scouting and stuff like that. So it's like, I know how epic they are.
Totally.
And so it was like, it was on my radar, and I knew like at some point I want to come run that one. Once I got into running, obviously I haven't been running for very long. So it's like, even a year ago, I wasn't into running yet. I wasn't into ultra running yet. So that's kind of funny to think about. It's almost like it manifests itself into my life. And obviously all the hard work, everything I've been doing brought me to this point now where it's like, I'm literally going to run this thing in 3 days.
What made you check their website to see if they had an open spot?
Dude, this is a crazy story. So I was up, I don't know why I was up. I was up at like 2 a.m. And they had posted on their Instagram. I was checking Instagram like 2 a.m, of course.
That's what happens when you have. You weren't drinking a beer. That's what happens to me when I have a beer. I pop awake and I'm like, why am I awake?
Anyway, I'm making bad decisions right now. 2 a.m. drinking beer. But no. My wife is sleeping. I'm sitting here scrolling through Instagram, and I see a story from the Crazy Mountain. I had followed them on Instagram for a while, because I'd wanted to run it, and I knew a couple guys who were going to be out here running it anyway. So I was like, man, I'm getting kind of ramped up. I want to watch their progress and see what they're doing, see their training and stuff. The story popped up. We have a few spots open left from drops. And I'm like, what? No way. So I'm like thinking, man, I'm going to go look. I'm going to go see what's this cost. I didn't even know what it costs, because some of these ultras are kind of expensive, $1,500 for some of them, what I mean? Some of these big ones. I'm like, man, it's like $350. Like, I think I can afford that. I think my wife will be cool with that. You know, like she knows I want to run up one of these big mountain ones. I haven't run a mountain ultra yet. So I was like, if I don't do this, I'm a wuss. Like, if I don't sign up for this thing, like, come on, like you don't even deserve to run this thing in the future. I mean, in my head, that's what I was like trying to psych myself up. I literally signed up. It was 3 a.m. I signed up. Like, I didn't tell my wife. I didn't tell anybody. I'm like, it says there's one spot left. I'm signing up for that spot.
That's my spot.
They had a few spots left, but I was like, because we had talked not that long ago, and I was telling you, like, I'd like to run that one someday, but it was sold out for so long,
with a wait list,
with the long wait list too. That was the other thing too. So I was like, man, there's no way. Like, I'm not even on the wait list or anything like that. So I'm not even gonna get a spot for sure. And then I saw that, and I'm like, all right, I'm signing up. I signed up right there. Dude. Paid my due. Well, at first I started kind of freaking. I was like, hold on. I'm looking at the website, and they have some rules around, like, you have to run a certain amount of miles versus, how much elevation gain you've done in prior runs. And I'm like, I know my 100-miler had a little bit of elevation gain. So I'm like checking to make sure it was like 8,000 foot of elevation gain over like 100 miles. So I'm like, I'm sure they're not going to cancel me on this deal. Like, I've done 100 miles. I've done I've done 100K. I've done a few, I did it recently. I just did a last man standing, and I did 8,000 foot of elevation gain in 27 miles. So I'm like, I've done a little bit of elevation gain. I'm not some, just chump on the side of this, I think it's the deal here. You get some of these Montanans, you guys are crazy. So, I mean, I know you're not a true blue Montanan, but you get these guys around here, they're like, the night before they sign up, like, I'm going to go run 100 miles tomorrow. And that's what they do. They've literally never done an ultra run or a mountain run before. They've hiked and been in the mountains their whole life. Then they sign up for this thing, and they don't realize, like, it's a little bit different than just hiking in the mountains,
It's 100 continuous
and stuff
miles,
like that. Yeah. So I think that was kind of I started kind of freaking out. I'm like, oh, hold on. I want to make sure I can run this thing. You know what I mean? But then I was like, okay, good. I'm good. So, but yeah, man.
You spent your time for sure. Like in a short amount of time, like, you recognize that, you could sign up for this and you could go do it too.
Well, I had been training for that last man standing. It was 340 foot of elevation gain per mile. So it was a 1.1 mile loop. And so I did 27 and a half miles and got 8,000 foot of elevation gain in that race. The guy who won it, actually, his name's Eric Kinley. He's running this race too.
Okay.
He won it 133 miles, 43,000 foot of elevation gain over that period of time. So I'm like, holy crap, like that guy. And he lives out here, hikes out here, hunts out here, all the stuff, or whatever, trains out here. So I'm kind of psyching myself up with that. But in the sense, it's like, no, man, like you're going to be fine. You've been training, for elevation gain, and stuff like that. I lift, I train pretty hard. I do a lot of mobility.
Yep.
But you're still like, I've never done a real mountain race. Yeah. So you're thinking about that. You got to have respect for that, for sure. It's a little bit different than doing one of these flat 100 mile. I mean, 100 miles, 100 miles. Don't get me wrong. It's not easy. It's all the emotions all the way through, up and down and in between. You know that. I mean, you've done a few hundreds yourself. I know, right? So
I might.
It's like, man, it's gonna be an epic journey for sure. But I know I can do it. So
I think that's like the confidence piece of not overconfidence. We're not talking pride,
correct,
like that sort of thing. But even saying, yes, sign up. I check all these boxes. These are the requirements for me. I know that what I've been doing wherever I am, and you're spot on with 100 miles is 100 miles because it really, like, it's all relative. Like, who knows how you're going to feel that day? Like people run these things when they have colds, or maybe the flu, like that sort of stuff. Like they'll still go and do it.
Did we talk about my first one?
Yeah. Dude, there you go.
The flu.
Yeah.
I ran it with the flu. So, I mean, there you go.
It's like 100 miles with the flu.
Yeah.
Like when most people think like I should be at home in bed, you run 100 miles.
Yeah.
I'm like,
and there was several times where I was thinking, man, am I really going to do this? Am I really going to try this? But then it was like, yeah, of course I am. I've been training for 5 months. Like something's going to happen at some point where it'll break and I'll be okay. And it did, mile 50 finally. Downing Pepto-Bismol and Coca-Cola for the first 50 miles, just trying to make it through. Literally didn't eat anything the night before. I'm puking and it's coming out both ends. We'll just leave it at that. Yeah. But mile 50, something broke and I started eating, feeling amazing. And next thing you know, like my second half of my race, I'm like, man, this is awesome. Ultras are great. I mean, these are great, man.
Dude.
False sense of what it really is, but but I made it through. You push through. You have to have that mindset. You have to be thinking about it like, I can do this. I know I can do this, and I'm not gonna. I think that's the thing. A lot of guys, and not just in ultra running. I think just in anything. We get in our head, we start overthinking about everything instead of just doing and going and moving forward and one foot after another. And I think that's the key to life, man. I work, I've been doing some fitness coaching now and performance coaching, and I've got several clients I work with, and you guys know this with Mountain Tough too. I mean, it's the same thing. It's like you get some of these people who haven't been in fitness for a long time, or they've maybe never done any kind of fitness movement or any kind of nutrition type stuff. And so it's really like they get excited at first and they're doing their thing and they're going through the motions and, oh man, this is awesome. I'm down 10 pounds, a month in. Next thing you know, they have a couple bad days or whatever, miss their workout or miss their nutrition for a couple days. They start overthinking, like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. I don't think I could do this for 6 months or 10 months or a year. It's like, no, quit thinking like that. Like, this is your lifestyle now. Just because you miss one day doesn't mean that you have to miss the whole week, right? You don't have to let that week turn into a month, that month turn into the whole next year, 5 years, which is really easy for us to do. It just snowballs. Let that snowball happen the other way around, where it's like, hey, I missed today, big deal. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm gonna get back on the ball tomorrow, and I'm gonna be right back at it. So I think having that mindset in ultra running or in anything you do, like that's the ticket, man. And that's been my key to success over the last 3 years, is just having that mindset of like, hey, I'm living a lifestyle now. Like I'm a different person. Like this is how I live my life versus how I used to be, very complacent. And, get in my head and overthink stuff. So
that's sort of like in your head, sort of panic frozen moment where like you don't go anywhere. And I do think, I think a lot of people do fall into that, even myself. Like I totally acknowledge that, but like ultra running in particular for me has like brought out all of those sort of like intricacies and details that I need to be aware of. And unless you try that sort of like just go all in on something like as extreme, so to speak, as that, you don't get to learn those things in a short amount of time. Because I'm like, even when the wheels fall off, like you reset. And it's amazing to watch people and how quickly they actually do reset, put the wheels back on, and then go again.
Well, I mean, this, like you come into an aid station, you're feeling like crap, you're you probably want to quit. There's a lot of times you want to quit coming into one of those aid stations. Maybe you're at mile 50 or whatever you're doing. It's like somebody comes up to you and says an encouraging word. Hey man, you're doing great. Yeah. Like you're halfway done. Just keep going. Next thing you know, you're like, yeah, that's right. I am halfway done. Like I'm gonna keep going. You know what I mean?
Better
get a
little
bit of food in my belly. A little bit of hydration. Mm-hmm. Next thing you know, you're back out there, and then you just have your bet. And the next 10 miles are like the best miles of the race, and it's like, whoa, like that was a total shift from the lowest to lows. Now we're at the highest of highs, right in the middle of a 100-mile race, and that opened my eye. That's what I love about the ultra running scene is the fact that, first of all, you have this random person who you probably never met, is just right there and comes and gives you a pep talk. First of all, that's the community side. And then next thing you know, like you feel amazing and like you're pushing through, you're making it through that. So, and I think that's just a good, again, for life. I mean, that's why I'm doing these ultras. It's not, I don't like running. I mean, I'll be honest. I've told you this.
I don't know if anyone really does.
Like running. Like I've never been a runner. I don't like running. Running to me was torture because we'd have to run for football practice or whatever. And it was like, gotta get in shape, guys. Let's go. And it's like, man, I hate this. This sucks. You know what I mean? Versus I love lifting. I love strength training. I love all that, and, but it's like, okay, I'm training for life. Like I'm not just training for this race. Like if I can make it through a 100-mile race, like I can make it through being a dad. I can make it through being a husband, like the tough situations, the tough situations we go through as dads and husbands. Thinking ahead, like bow hunting season, man, like bow hunting in the mountains. I mean, if I can make it through a 100-mile race in the crazy mountains, what can I do during elk season in the mountains when there's not even that kind of pressure on? You know what I mean? I mean, there's pressure probably, but it's not like running a 100-mile race.
No,
so
it's a little bit different. Yeah, that's for sure. But you take those skills and you apply them in doing any sort of like activity. Like there's little lessons, and I think ultra running is really unique, or training. That style of training, just like seeing the slow gains, right? It's a pace game. If you miss a day, it's okay. Ooh. Don't freak out. Yeah. Like go and get after it again. Yeah. And you start seeing those gains, and they're little. They're like really finite.
Very little. Yeah.
And they're wins, every single one. It's just easy to get stuck on the what you might think. Maybe that's a loss, or if I miss this, am I going to lose it all?
Yeah.
Right.
We look ahead so much at things and like think, oh, it's 100 miles. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, man, that's a long ways, But now I don't look at it like, man, the first aid station 6 miles. I can go 6 miles, and then you get there and it's like, okay, the next aid station's another 15 miles. I can do 15 miles. It's an easy Saturday, Sunday, short run or whatever, So you start to break things down, and I think that's where, again, the ultra running thing, it's like you start to think about things as a breakdown. You start to break things down like little by little, where it's like over that consistency, over that time, over that long period, it's like it adds up to that big 100-mile race, where you've had a lot of ups and downs throughout that, but you finished the race, man. You got to the top of the hill,
bit by bit. Yeah.
Bit by
to
bit.
the top of the hill, and then the descent
back down
off of it, for sure. I just curious too, like how does your strength routine play into then your running routine? Because that's a blend, and that's a hard thing for a lot of people. Like how much of this and how much of that?
Yeah, for me, like right now, we were talking earlier, like I was training jiu-jitsu for a while. I was strength training. And then I started getting into running. And really the running part, I got into that because I was like, man, this is something I don't like, and it's hard. Yeah. And I'm not familiar with it. So
I'm going to do it.
I'm going to learn something different. And I know that the endurance side of running is really like good for bow hunting and bow hunting in the mountains. And my goal has been to get back out here. Yep. Get back in the elk woods. I've never killed a bull elk with my bow. I've gotten into them a couple times when I lived out here, but never finished a job. So I was thinking a lot about that kind of stuff too. But then the overall idea of like, hey, like I'm improving my life as a man overall. You know what I mean? I'm becoming a better husband, a better father, a better person overall. And then the impact and the inspiration that can be to the people around, especially as a coach, a fitness performance coach, you know? So kind of leading from the front. So for me, it's like I was doing all these different things, and I realized like, okay, I need to really kind of define my timeline, because I'm a dad. Like I run a couple businesses. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of time in here there is time for training, but you've got to really define what that looks like for you. So for me, it's like I lift. I do like more of like a 5x5 strength. It's kind of weird because like it's totally different than what a lot of people probably do. They do probably more of the functional type stuff, but I really enjoy strength training and I really enjoy gains.
Yeah,
you know, those kinds of, I was a college athlete. I was a college football player. So my background has been more in the strength side where it was like more focused on the gains and the strength, but combining that. So I'm lifting typically, I do 3 full body days.
Okay.
Most of the time where it's kind of, I'm doing a little bit of everything 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yep.
And then in between that, I'm doing a lot of mobility work and a lot of other like auxiliary type work, you know, like ski erg and some of that kind of stuff, rowing.
Yep.
But I lift pretty heavy 3 days a week. You know, I'm pulling, you know, I'm in the 1,000-pound club. Not that that's anything to brag about, but I'm doing that. You know what I mean? I'm squatting pretty heavy. I'm deadlifting pretty heavy. I'm benching pretty heavy. Yep. And those are kind of my main 3 lifts that I focus on. And then I do the auxiliary work in between that, you know, to kind of keep that. I think the thing that's changed me the most, so honestly, is the mobility work. Like I never realized how important the mobility stuff was. You're not just, you know, people are like, oh, you're just out stretching, right? Yeah. You know, and it's like, no, man, like you're not just stretching, like you're stretching beyond, you know, you're stretching for strength. Like you're strengthening those tendons, those ligaments, you know, your body in different ways than you've ever imagined. So I got pretty deep into that as well. And that's been a huge game changer for me. Just realizing like, this doesn't just affect my running. This affects my lifestyle, how I want to live my life, you know, as just somebody who uses health and fitness as, you know, throughout everything. So, does that kind of answer your question a little bit?
It does. It does for sure. Because I'm like, it takes a blend. Yeah. And also has to do with like where your interests lie, and then your background too,
and your time. You know, and your time and your interests. So I think it can look different for everybody. I mean, I know guys that are doing a lot of CrossFit type stuff, and then then they're doing their mobility, they're doing band work, they're doing whatever. You know. Even just kettlebell or some body weight work and stuff like that. I mean, everybody has a different mix of what they like, what they enjoy, how much time they have. I can go get a heavy lift in 30, 40 minutes, you know what I mean? And be done with it. Get a sauna, get a cold plunge in. You know, that's been another game changer as well, doing a lot of that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I can take an hour at a time and be done with what I want to get done in for that day and be back home and still get a run in or still spend time with my family, still work on my business, you know, those kinds of things. Yeah. So it just works really well for me. That's kind of been my routine. Typically 3 days a week though it's what's helped me, and we'll see if it's good for the mountains.
I was like, I mean, for me, I chalk it up to durability because in the long run, overall, like the long term, like life, you just want to be able to do it for a long time.
Exactly. So, that too. Exactly. Well, with running, you can do that for a long time.
You absolutely can.
Just any training. I mean, really, maybe jujitsu is one of those where you get hurt a little bit more or something like that. But even if you're smart about how you train and you train with the right people, I think that, you know, the longevity is what a lot of people are looking, especially today. I think that's what more people are starting to think that way versus, I just want to be this big, bulky, guy. I mean, you look at hybrid training and how popular that's become. Like that's what you guys do, right? I mean, it's basically hybrid training.
Yes.
Where, you know, it's overall lifestyle of trying to be a better person, but also mix your health, fitness, nutrition as part of that and how that works. I love that mindset. I think that we need more of that instead of like, man, I just want to look good for the ladies or for the people around me. It's like, you're going to look good. That's going to be a byproduct of just living that lifestyle anyway. I mean, especially surrounding yourself with the right people. So,
it's like, one of the long time Mountain Tough slogans is always ready. And like, just if somebody asks you, hey, do you want to, like, I would love to pace you. Like, I would pace you in this. I would pace you in this race in a heartbeat if I wasn't doing that aid station. So
you'll be done by then.
But
right?
I'm
7 miles.
I'm like, would drive all the way around the crazies and come back. But I'm like, to be prepared to go and be like, hey, can you pace me? Can you pace me for 50 miles?
Exactly.
Like, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Like, no doubt about it. Or, you know, the easy thing is like, can you come help me pack this bull out? And then your buddy kills one the next day, or you do. Can you pack out another one the next day, right? Or are you too devastated from that one experience to go and get up and do it again? So like that always, like you're always prepared. I want to go experience these things when and if the opportunity arises.
Because you don't know when that opportunity might arise again, right?
No, not at all.
Man, me and my buddy Todd were talking about this the other day. He was out. He lives in Colorado, and he's in pretty good shape, and he gets after it pretty good, even for a guy mid-50s. I mean, he gets after it and kills some, not big bulls, but he kills some bulls.
Yeah.
And he killed a bull pretty far back in there, and he was packing out, the first load or whatever, and he got to the trailhead, and a couple of these older 70-year-old guys were sitting there like walking down the road, and they're like, "Hey, did you killed that back in there?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, I gotta go back in there, another 8 miles back in and go pack out the rest of it.
Yep.
Can we come with? We've never killed anything. We've never even been part of a pack out before.
Oh my gosh.
Can we come in there with you? I was like, I love that. I love when people think about it that way. It's like, you don't know when that next opportunity, they might not ever get an opportunity to pack out a bull. So it's like, I'm going to take that opportunity right there. I don't know this guy, but
go do it.
But let's go do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool. And then as part of that, we were kind of talking about like, just being able to look over at a mountain and like think, I could go right now, hike up over that mountain, no problem. I mean, yeah, it's going to be some work, but I could go do that if I had to, or if I wanted to, you know what I mean? Just having that, in your arsenal in life, it's like, it's a cool feeling, right?
Big time. To go, to just look at that and say, that's not that far of a distance.
Yeah.
That's not too steep.
Yep.
That's not too nasty. I can go and do that.
I can do it.
It's awesome on that confidence theme. I'm like, just to have it there and be able to go. Also too, I'm like, for you as a dad, because you have 3 kids?
Yeah, 3. Yeah.
You have 3 kids.
All under 7 years old,
Yeah.
So
like this is prime time to set an example for them.
Oh man.
So that they see it and you are modeling that. Like that's a huge thing for any kid in their development, but especially younger.
I'm seeing a lot of that already too. It's like I've got 2 girls, 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, and then my boy, he's 2. So he's pretty young, but he's at that point where he's like, he's waking up. Like he knows there's stuff going on around here now, and he's talking. But my girls, they know what's going on. They're like, Daddy runs 100-mile races, and like they know like that's a big deal now. Dad, I'm gonna run 100 miles someday, and I'm just like, that's so cool to hear her. Hear them say that at 6 and 7.
Like
they're like, Dad, when are we gonna start training for 100 miles? And I'm just like, well, okay. Like, yeah, I want to do that, and we'll get there. Let's go with the 5K. Let's go with the mile first. You know what I mean? So they're out running, and I'm like, all right, we're gonna go do a mile. We're gonna time it. They're doing like 12.5-minute, 13-minute miles with me, and
it's amazing.
I'm just like, they're 6 and 7 and they're not stopping. And I'm like, I couldn't do that at that age. No. I don't think I could. Maybe I could. And I just don't remember it. But I mean, it wasn't that long ago that I couldn't do that. I mean, 3 years ago, I could barely run an 18-minute mile. So
dude,
think about that for a second.
Like 3 years ago, couldn't run an 18-minute mile at all. Where were you 3 years ago? Like
I was almost 300 pounds, man. I was 290. I hadn't weighed myself for a month after that. So I knew I was 290 plus, and not feeling good, depressed, this was after COVID. So put on 30, 40, 50 pounds during COVID.
Yep.
Like we were talking about drinking all the time, drinking whiskey like every night. Yeah. My wife was pregnant. So we're eating cookies and ice cream, I'm drinking whiskey. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Depressed, like down in the dumps, like what's going on? My business was like folding because of COVID and stuff. My clients were like pulling all their marketing budgets out. And it's like, oh my gosh. But you're making a ton of excuses in that moment. Yeah. It's like you're so complacent. You're not living. I knew that wasn't who I was. That's not who I am.
Yeah.
I've been a college athlete. I've done some stuff in business. I've lived a good life. I've grew up in a good family, hardworking farm and ranch, and so it's like this isn't who I am. This isn't what I want to portray. At that point we hadn't had our son yet. My wife was pregnant, so it was like, man, I got to quit making all these excuses. And it was crazy, man. I woke up one day, took a shower one morning. This was like 5 days before my son was going to be born. I looked in the mirror and I'm like, man, like this is not good. Like I'm not in a good place right now. Oh. And this is not who I am either. It's like God told me in that moment. It was almost like, it was a spiritual moment, like for sure. It was like, I woke up in that moment. It was like, I had a come to Jesus moment. Like, hey, you're making a lot of excuses. This isn't on anybody else but yourself.
Yep.
Like you've got to make a change. If you want to show up for your family, if you want to show up for yourself, like you've got to make the change. You've got to decide that you're going to get consistent and, become that best version of yourself that you want to become. Yep. So, yeah, man, I was 290 plus pounds. That was January 2021. So not that long ago.
Yeah.
And now I'm 215, you know?
Yeah. A literal come to Jesus moment.
I mean, we all have those at different times, right?
Totally.
But that was one of those that's like, man, you're not being a good example for your kids. I mean, my wife and I, our relationship had started to grow a little bit. We went through some marriage counseling before 2020. Thank God.
Yeah.
You know, but I wasn't showing up the way I was supposed to show up as a dad or a husband, you know, or for myself even. If I couldn't show up for myself, how can I show up for them, you know? So yeah, it was a pretty pivotal moment, obviously, in my life, you know, 3 years ago. And it's kind of crazy to look back now, but I think about this a lot. Like, man, if I can do that, just some guy who was overweight and stressed out, depressed, you know, making all these excuses, very complacent. If I can come out of that, I think anybody can come out of that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you gotta stop with the excuses. You gotta take ownership over your life and say, hey, like, I need to start making some changes. Whatever that looks like, doesn't have to be this big overnight. And it wasn't for me. It wasn't a big overnight, like, oh man, like you lost 100 pounds overnight. That's amazing. Like, no, like this took me years. Like it took me consistency over time. And that's why when I talk about like that snowball effect, it's huge, man. It's so important. Like start going for a walk. Let that walk turn into, okay, I'm going to focus on my nutrition now. I'm going to start going for some runs. You know what I mean? And let that kind of just become your lifestyle. So,
totally.
Yeah, it's crazy, huh?
Dude, like it really is like to notice that and recognize that in yourself and then make a change.
It's hard.
it's a really, really difficult thing to do, but people are so capable of that.
Yeah.
They just don't know it's that cycle of missing a day.
Yep.
And then saying I'm never going to get it back, and I miss another one, and then a week and a month and a year, and all of a sudden you think you're too far behind. Yeah. And all you gotta do is start.
Yeah, it's gotta start.
Like just gotta start, and little. Like that's
small steps.
Yep. Like incremental.
And that's probably
steps.
the hardest part today. I mean, you look at social media. Everybody's highlight reels are out there. We all do it. You know, even I like think, oh man, I gotta stop posting the highlight reel. I gotta post some real stuff here.
Yeah.
I gotta make sure I'm, you know, kind of keeping a balance here because I don't want anybody to think like, hey, like this is just an overnight change.
Yep.
You know, I know anybody can make these changes in their life because I could, if I can do it, I know anybody else can do it. But it's so easy for us to make the excuses because we see, oh man, look at John over there, man. He's just living his best life every day. He's been in shape his whole life, and that's his whole life. I mean, look at that guy. He wins at everything, you know. And it's like, no, I guarantee you, John probably has many moments where a lot of ups and downs, a lot of struggles, a lot of different things that he's going through too, you know, and maybe it's just hard for him to want to post about that or talk about that, you know? And,
Absolutely.
And I think once you get to a point where you can be real and talk about those things, that's some magical stuff, man. That's where I'm at in my life. Like I don't hold back anything now. It's like, I'll talk about whatever, the crap, you know, the hard stuff, the good stuff, the whatever, everything in between, because I know that you don't ever know what that conversation might do for somebody else and the impact it could make. You know, people will go home and like, hey, I'm going to start going for a walk every day. And that walk turns into changing their whole life. You know what I mean? Next thing you know, they're calling me up 6 months later, man, I lost 40 pounds. Like this literally happens to me now. People will text me or message me on Instagram and like, dude, I saw your stuff or I saw you on a podcast or whatever. I've been following you for a couple of years and they've never commented. They've never left a like. They've never left a thing. I've never noticed that person, you know, just with social media. And they're messaging me out of the blue like, man, you helped me change my life. I'm like, no, you did the work, bro. Like you just followed what I did. You know what I mean? Like you just took the inspiration from it and did the work yourself. So that's really cool, man. That's really cool. And then getting back to like talking about the kids too, they're seeing that too. They remember, Dad, you were big. And it's like, I was, you know, and they remind me sometimes. And it's like, that's a cool little gut check. You know, I like that. It's because it's like, I don't ever want to go back to being that guy. Not that the size was even the biggest part of that. It was who I was as a person in that moment. And they recognize that. They know that. My wife knows that.
Well, and even for your kids too, to understand like, yeah, that's a struggle that people have. Like weight is a huge struggle that a lot of people have. Dad, you were huge. And you can talk about that and you can say, hey, like, when you encounter somebody, like we don't need to make like comments about them. Like we get to talk about that at an early age. And that's really important too, because because you can start building that empathy in because you have it.
Yes.
Like you have that empathy because you were there. Right.
I've been there. And I've got clients that are there right now. And it's like, man, like I've been in your shoes. I know what this is like. I know it's tough. I know it's a struggle. No, it's not easy digging out of that hole. You know, it's a big hole. And it's, there's a lot of different things that affect that, from social media to your relationships to your addictions, you know, the different areas. And like we were talking about earlier, once you start to identify some of those things, you know, in your life and see those patterns, it's like, okay, I've got to take ownership over this and start to make some small changes. Yeah. And when that happens, it's a beautiful thing, man. Yeah. It's so awesome.
Yeah.
And the kids are noticing those things too, you know, so
big time.
I love that.
I think that's the thing that we get to share with them from an earlier age that hopefully will pay off. I mean, we don't know, but I do feel quite confident that will pay off too in the long run. We had Truett Haynes. He came into the gym and dude, he's a beast. Cam Haynes ran the Crazy Mountain Hunter last year, so we had like fanboy him a little bit. I never like met him or anything, but I was just like, man, I appreciate the work you do, and yeah, it's not for everybody, but like I appreciate you doing that.
Yes.
But Truett came into the gym, and it was really cool to just interact with him, and he's just quiet and humble and hardworking, and like. Yeah, social media maybe doesn't portray that all the time.
Well, he used to. I mean, when you start to get a level of confidence, you kind of have a right to talk a little bit more, right?
Totally.
You've built some of that confidence in your life to start having some of those louder conversations, I guess, right? But anyway.
But he did make a comment about just being appreciative of his childhood and growing up and his dad's influence, like, and working hard. And I'm like, that's it. Like, that's totally it. Too. And however we parent, you know, everyone's on their own path that way, but for sure it'll pay dividends, and your kids watching your path.
Yes.
And then for you and your wife too. Yeah. I'm like to go 3 years back and then make all those changes and watch your guys' relationship flourish too. Cause your wife just ran her first, right? Like her first ultra.
So the funny thing is my wife, like her handle on Instagram is Runner Christina. She loves running. Like that's her spirit animal, is running. Like she loves it. Like that's her thing. She's always told me like, man, wouldn't it be so cool if we ran together? And I'm like, no, I hate running. I'm like, so like this has been her dream for 8 years since we met each other, you know, like to go running together. And last year when I got into running, she's like, do you like this stuff? Like, do you want to do this together?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, I don't like it, but I think we could do this. It'd be kind of fun. Like, and so she would come out on some of my long runs for, 2 to 3 hours. And I'm doing like a 6-hour, 8-hour long run on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, this is kind of cool. Like we can spend time together doing this together. I'm not going fast, it's a slow, easy pace, I'm just trying to get time on feet, and, that was really cool. Well, through that influence and her seeing what I'm doing over the last year from 5K to 100-mile races, she's like, man, like there's something here. Like this is really cool. Like I've seen you grow through this. I've seen your change. Not that I'm perfect. Not that I have a lot of change to still do. I have a lot of growth to still happen in my life. Exactly. It never ends. But, and I don't ever want to portray that I have like this great lifestyle because of where I'm at today. But I think that's the mindset I have, is like that I want to keep growing. And then I see my wife now, like it's almost like I'm lifting her up, even though she was the one who loved running. She's like, man, I don't know if I could do this. I don't know if I can do an ultra. Like, she was more into like 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, stuff like that. She came out and paced me at the Rocky Raccoon when I did my 100-miler. She paced me for 20 miles through the night. She had never ran over 13.1 miles. You know what I mean? And she's like, that was awesome. Like, and we got to run together. We got to spend time together. She got to see me in some of my hardest moment, in during that race. And I think just me leading in that way, like, has inspired her now. Like, I might be a mom of 3. I might have ballooned up during these pregnancies, but I can get back down. I can get back in shape. I can, I can be a good mom. I can be a good, leader in my family too. Yeah. And I can use this as a tool towards that, So it's cool to see like how it's inspired. And it's not all me. Like I wouldn't say it's all me. She's got something inside her. I can see she's got some greatness inside of her too that she's always had, where she just hasn't tapped into it. She hasn't had maybe somebody speak into her the right way to say, hey, you can go run a 60K and do this. Or you can go run 100. Like it's so funny because you were saying she ran her first race 2 weekends ago. It was her first ultra. She had only ran 20 miles with me a couple times. But we trained for a couple months. I helped coach her and train her and stuff like that. And I knew that as part of my training for this race, like I wanted to do another lead up to, this. So I was going to do a 60K, and I'm like, hey, do you want to come do this with me?
Yep.
As kind of part of the training. This will be your first ultra. She's like, do you think I can do that? I'm like, I know you can do it. Like, absolutely you can do it. So, I got her signed up, and halfway through the race, she's like, you're crazy. I don't know why I let you sign me up for this and stuff. I'm like, no, you got this, and so we kind of had some banter back and forth, but she's like, I'm going to run my own race. You run your own race. So I ended up going ahead and running fast, and she finished in 11 hours and 45 minutes. It was a 12-hour cutoff. But she finished.
Yeah.
And I don't care if she was the last person, the second to last person, whatever she ended up being. I was like, you just ran 37 some miles, through the middle of the night. Your legs were hurting. You were not feeling good. You were sick to your stomach at times. You were scared of the dark, whatever. You're climbing up these hills, not knowing if you're going to make it, but you did it. And I'm like, give it a week. She's like, I'm never doing this again. I can't believe you talked me into this. A week later, she's like, so should I do 100K next? Or should I do like a 50 miler? I'm like, well, you've already done 37. You might as well just jump up to 62. You might as well jump up here. So she's already like, we're looking ahead to, I did the Rocky Raccoon last year. They have a 100K version of that. And so it would be February coming up. And I'm like, plenty of time to train. You're going to be ready, you're going to be good to go.
Do it.
So it's cool, man. Like you said, like, it's just cool to see how training hard, working hard, leading from the front in this lifestyle, like it can relate with so many different people, especially the people who, you're closest with your wife and your kids and the relationship there. And like I said, not that I'm perfect and have this perfect relationship. We're working through a lot of stuff still, 7 years in now. And, but the growth that we've had from year 1 to year 7 is like, I can't believe we're totally different people in the right way, in the good way, And now we've got more pressure on us than we've ever had with 3 kids, and trying to, navigate being parents and that and training and living the life, that we kind of want to live too, and our faith and everything, So it's, dude, I think a big part of it though is the training, like the health and fitness lifestyle that we live is really important to all that. I think it really echoes through the whole, the whole family.
Yeah. So. It's like a portal, like do that and put the work in because it takes work, opens up like, and you have all this capacity to handle the actual, I say it a bunch. I'm like the actual hardship, SHIP, right? Like, like that's when like, you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, and there's no sense in worrying about it, but
especially these days,
but be prepared. And when life throws something really crazy at you, tap into all these experiences that you've had through that health and fitness lifestyle, because those ones are the ones that are going to push you further along and help you through like the actual hard times. Because I was like, signing up for a race is a hard time, but it's for, 60K, 12 hours, right? 100 miler, 36 hours, whatever. Like, ends up being, like, that's a short amount of time. Like,
it really is.
I'm like, really? Like, you're like,
I know.
Oh, blink and that'll be done.
That's a day.
Just
Come on.
won't sleep for a night. Like, and it's done, but you'll tap into those memories regardless of outcome. Like,
Well, and I'm realizing this now. I didn't always think about this because I didn't always work hard preparing. I had some natural God-given talent, throughout my life where I didn't always have to work hard. Like I could show up and like perform, right? And I think there's a lot of people that do that still today, even pro athletes that probably do that and don't give their all in their training or in their lead up or whatever. But I realize now, like if I can treat every situation like a professional, like this is my Super Bowl, this is my glorious moment in life, If I can train that way and practice that way and go through the, not just go through the motions, but actually take it to that next level. It's like when that competition comes or that moment comes, I did the work. The confidence is there. I know I can do this. I know I'm gonna, it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard. And there's going to be a lot of ups and downs and all the emotions, but we're going to make it through because we did the work leading up to it. That's what I love now too. Like that's the mindset I have towards everything. It's like, hey, if I put in the work, I put in enough time, like good things are going to happen. I might not finish this 100-mile race. It might actually happen that this is so hard for me that I twist an ankle or break a knee or whatever.
Yeah.
You just don't know. That's why I like doing hard things.
Mm-hmm.
I might not finish, but at least I know I put in that hard work leading up to it to put myself in a position where next time around now, like, hey, I'm going to learn from this situation. I'm going to learn from this experience. And now I'm going to sign up again, and I'm going to do it again. And the next time I'm going to finish. You know, I'm not saying with this race, but that's what I think we need more people to have that mindset. Like, hey, let's actually sign up for something that kind of scares the crap out of us. And like, we know that, hey, there is actually an opportunity here that we might not finish this or whatever. I know you guys just had Michael Easter on here recently, and man, he's been a huge inspiration for me just through his book and his writings. Mm-hmm. And I started listening to The Comfort Crisis when I was training for my just for a 5K.
Yeah,
so it's
totally.
kind of funny. Up to that point, I had never ran over 3 miles, you know what I mean, in one setting. So I'm like, found this book. I'm like, oh, this kind of sounds cool. Comfort Crisis.
Yeah.
Like that sounds like who I used to be. You know what I mean? Very comfortable. I started listening to this thing, you know, during my runs, and I'm like, man, this is profound. This is a life-changing mindset change, you know, and obviously it's cool because he intermixes the hunting trip as part of that with Donnie. But I love this whole idea of a misogi, right? Is how you say it, I think.
Yep.
And doing the hard thing, and maybe not even talking about it always. It's really easy today with social media and stuff, and we want to show everybody our journey, in which I fall into that too, especially when you run a health and fitness business, you know, and you have to kind of show that journey.
It's sort of like, you're balancing, like, you want to like help push people and inspire people, but then you don't want to like brag.
You don't want to brag. You want to be humble about it. And you kind of, some of that you want to hold in for yourself and enjoy that moment too. Like part of me thinks about that. It's like, man, this is my moment. This is my experience. Like, I want to enjoy this, you know, this timeline, you know? But I love that, like, where it's like, man, I'm going to sign up for something really hard, really big. And I just got to put in the work. I got to give my best effort. And if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Maybe it's not going to happen this time, or maybe it will, you know? So we need more people doing that, for sure. And I love that he talks about that.
I'm like, along those lines, it's like, anywhere along. If somebody is looking at or has seen Mountain Tough, and they've seen some of the ads in social media, and they know about it, or they know somebody who does it. We had a guy here for Tough Fest, and I just spent a bunch of time with he and his wife, and they're from Colorado, and he's like, I send these workouts to my buddies all the time, like, and they're just like, not today. Like, no, I don't think so. Like, and he's like, but they're amazing. Like, if you just do them, like, you're gonna feel so good. And I was like, we just got to keep providing that influence, and when the right time, right place,
when they have that right situation,
and
for them.
that's a workout. And signing up for an ultra isn't for everybody, but that's one of those like defining moments where you're like, that's a scary thing. Like, I'm going to go for it. Like, I'm all in regardless of outcome. And, you like your wife too, like doing that one. It is rare in the ultra running, or even like in a workout scenario with a really good routine, like a fitness routine, that people are like, no, I don't think I'll do that again. Like, they're like, no, I'm going. I'm going again. Like,
that first reaction.
I'm signing up. I'm doing the next one.
Exactly. It's like, give it a couple days, and she's like, all right, I'm ready for the next one. After, we joke because she didn't listen. I'm her coach, you know, and I've been training her, and she did the work. Like, I knew she was prepared. I knew she was ready. I saw everything she did over the last 2-3 months. You know, through our crazy schedule and everything, and my own training too, you know, so we're trying to go back and forth and both get our training in with 3 kids, with a life, with business, you know, everything. It's crazy, man. But I love it. I love that. That's just our lifestyle. But I knew she did the work. I knew she was, you know, ready for this. But then it comes to the race. I'm like, well, you're going to have a lot. I'm kind of trying to give her some context of what's going to happen and how it's going to go. She's asking me all these questions, and I'm like, well, just make sure you, you know, rub some chafe cream all over your body in every single area where you can think of, and areas that you don't see either. And she, of course, didn't listen. And so she's like halfway through this race, and she's like, I should have listened. You were right. So, you know, for a couple days, she had the chafing, and her armpits were just raw, her legs, everything, you know what I mean? And she's just like, I should have listened. You were right. I'm like, I told you.
I told you.
You got to learn. You got to learn, though. You know, I mean, I I told you though, don't forget I did tell you that. And she's like, I did. Next time I'm going to listen. So one of my clients right now is training for a 50 mile. I think it's a 50 mile or a 50K, one of the two. But anyway, she's getting prepared, and she knows my wife really well and stuff. They talk through social media. My wife's like, listen to Collin.
Yeah.
Do everything he says. So it's cool, man. That's a fun learning lesson, with your wife as part of that. And again, now she's pumped up and she's excited to keep training and keep leveling up and want to take it to that next level too and do something even more scary for her. So, yeah.
How does rest look for like you and your wife and your family?
Yeah.
Like, cause it has to be in there. Like none of this works without that.
No, rest is, man, kind of like mobility. I was telling you, like one of those things you don't ever think about, like how important it is, but rest has been really, really important. It's not even, I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm just taking the day off. That's not what rest is. That's not what you still show up. Like every day you show up, I think, but it might not be that you're going for a long run every day or you're getting a lift in every day. Maybe it's you just, getting a good stretch in and maybe going for a walk with the kids. You know what I mean? That's just a nice day of rest. That's what my days of rest are now too,
totally.
For us. So we really try to incorporate that and try to take those days where it's like, hey, we're just going for a walk today, or I'm just going to do the ski erg or whatever. I'm going to do a row or whatever. Just get a quick 10, 15 minutes of work in, but not overexerting myself. I'm still resting in a way, because when you're training hard, you're used to training hard. So it's like a rest day becomes like, something like that, for us. And but you're right. It is really important to take those days, to take those moments. I mean, it's hard sometimes because it's like when you are living this lifestyle and you really enjoy training, I enjoy going to the gym and lifting, but I've had to even like doing 3 days a week is like, I used to do 5 days a week, it's like, and I was training a couple of days of jiu-jitsu and I was running for 5-6 days. So it's like, you realize once you get to a certain point, like you just need to maintain too. Like I'm at a point where with my running, like I don't have to run 100 miles a week. I can run 40, 50 miles a week and be totally fine.
Yes.
Plus I don't have the time anyway to go above that if I want to work in these other things, if I want to run a business, if I want to spend time with my family in certain ways, if I want to allow my wife to be able to go do her workouts and do her stuff too. She needs her time just as much as I do. So she's got the hard job staying at home with the kids all day. So
totally.
Especially during the summertime now.
Totally.
So yeah, it's important. It's important, like as a couple, I think too, like make sure your wife, that's something I'm learning more and more right now too. It's like, I think a lot about myself, I'm very, I'm very selfish. Let's just put it that way. But I realize like, hey, my wife needs a break from the kids. My wife needs to go for that walk, or she needs to go for that workout. She needs to go do that. And I think that's what I like about her getting into ultra running now too, is like, I have to think about that more because I know how hard it takes or how much hard work it takes to get to that level where you're running those ultras, at a high level. If she deserves that time to be able to work on herself in that way too.
Yeah, the equivalent, if not more.
Yeah, if not more, because I'm already at a level where I can maintain a little bit more, versus she's new into this. Yeah. So it's a good question.
I learned a lot of that, like the rest and then the pouring back into your spouse through hunting actually. Because like when I was younger and really obsessive about it, I'm like, I taxed my wife like big time. Like I'm going hunting. Like that's that.
This is my thing. This is what I do.
And we had some mentors of ours like really early on when we were first married. And I remember the wife of just being so excited for her husband to go hunt. Like she was like so excited. Like, she's like, I love it. Like I love it when he gets to go hunt. And I get like, I'm just like, and I look at my wife and she's like, and I was like, because that's why they were our mentors. Like he was in particular pouring so much back into her life throughout, knowing that this is coming up, that it wasn't a huge draw on her when he left to go on his trip.
I love that.
And I was like, and that takes a lot of work. And the same goes with ultra running too, because the amount of time and you have to allow that time and space for them to be able to train at the capacity you would want to train at. But like hunting was where I learned those lessons. And then running too, like I came about it like hunting and then running and kind of seeing that. But I'm like, I always try to pass that information on to people because I'm like you can't ditch out like if you have to scrap a hunt to be home for kids game, football game, whatever it is, this or that, I was like, you scrap that hunt.
Yep. It's part of that balance.
Yeah. Like that hunt will come back around. Like mark my words. But this time right now, it won't come back around. So it's cool to see the blend too for you and your wife.
It's
with
not
3
easy,
kiddos.
though.
No, it's not.
What
That's
you're
work.
saying is it's easy to talk about, but it's a lot of deep. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of relationships that are struggling with this, right? We could do a whole podcast on this topic right here. No problem. Easy. Yeah. And it's probably one of my biggest struggles too, because I'm like you. I love to hunt. I love to do my things. It's even different when like that lifestyle is part of your business too. Like think about that. Like I can justify this, like, hey, this is a tax write-off. Like this has helped me grow my business. Like I can easily justify all that to myself. Yeah. And she's like, really? And I'm just like, yeah, you're right, honey. Like we probably got to have a little more balance here. We got to get our priority, or I got to get my priorities straight. You know what I mean? But I love that example of your mentors, because like, look at how excited she was about wanting him to go do his thing. But that he on the other side obviously was the same way about the things that she wanted to do. So
and that's a path too for them, like a path for us as we're in the midst of it, and you're in the midst of younger kiddos and all of that. Like it is not overnight. Yeah. But being aware of those situations and then doing something about them is like the biggest thing. Like you're keen to it. Yeah. Right. You see it going on. Yeah. Like my wife, it's funny because when you do it, when it's part of business, like, we'll work at Mountain Tough, and working out is a requirement. Like, right. Like it's like your performance review. Exactly. It's every day.
Exactly.
Like,
every day.
Like, oh my gosh. But the other day, like she came home from work and she was like, I just need to work out. And I was like, really? And she's like, not everybody gets to do it as part of their work. Like I just need it for me. I need it for my mind.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, got it. Go do your thing. Yeah. For sure.
Well, even this trip out here, like we had already kind of had this trip planned. I kind of feel bad now, but we had this trip planned. Like we were going to go to Yellowstone. We were going to spend time out here. Show that she's never been to Montana. My kids have talked about living in Bozeman, since we got married. So like, I love it. I miss it. Like, well, we've never got to see this place. Is this a real place even? You know what I mean? So like, all right, we were going to come last year, but with everything with Yellowstone, everything they had going on out there, like it didn't work out. So we're like, all right, this summer we'll go. We'll take the kids. We'll go out there, hang out, get to catch up with some old friends, whatever. Well, then obviously the Crazy Mountain 100 thing came up where it was like, oh, we're already going to be out there anyway. Like I could turn this into a race too. And she did give me her blessing after I already had signed up. She's like, oh, that's really cool. Like, but she knows like now, cause I'm so, dedicated to my training. Like I'm focused right now this week. Like, but we're going to go to Yellowstone tomorrow. We're going to go, we're going to turn this into like a family trip, still a family trip. Then we're going to go to the Black Hills after this. And we're going to go visit my family in Minnesota. So it's cool. Like you can integrate like the fun family stuff with the training. But my wife is on board because she loves training too. So she's like totally cool. Like, hey, like as long as I get to do this at some point too, like where we do a trip for me, and I'm like, hey, that's actually a good idea. Maybe next one it'll be you. We'll travel for your race.
We'll support you.
We'll support you or whatever, So we actually had a good conversation about that yesterday when we were driving. Like I was like, that was a cool conversation. Like we get to live this lifestyle together though, and our kids get to see that. Like, why do we travel so much? Well, we're going to do races and we're doing fun things along the way. And this is kind of part of the lifestyle and the business in a way too. So it's cool to be able to work that. I know not everybody can live that life. We don't have a big house. We don't have the brand new cars. We don't watch a bunch of TV. We don't play video games. We don't, we don't go out and party and do big, we sacrifice different areas of our life because the fitness, the health, the travel, the family time, that's what's important for us. That's what our priorities are, and you've got other people that maybe their priorities are a little bit different, and that's okay too. But when you look at, because I get this message all the time from people on Instagram, it's like, how are you able to do all this stuff? You know what I mean? Well, I've sacrificed. I don't watch TV like you do for 3 hours a day. You know what I mean? I don't play video games. I don't go out to clubs and bars and party and stuff like that. Like that's not part of my life. On Friday night, I'm out training. I'm out for a 3 hour run. You know what I mean? In the evening, or my wife is out for a run or whatever. We're going for a family walk, you know? And it's like, we've built our life, fortunately, in a way where, you know, it's not just about houses and things and toys and stuff like that. It's like we want to do things. We want to live an adventure, you know,
stuff and things.
Especially with our kids at a young age like this. It's like they're only around for 18 years apiece. So it's like that's a very short period of time. So it's like I want to enjoy this moment as much as I can now with them. So
I've like one of the things about like the ultra running community is seeing some of the people and some of them with tenure. Like those that have done it for longer.
Yeah.
One of my buddies in particular, like with his daughters, it is really interesting because he's run all the hardest, like done the toughest things you can possibly imagine, like just like a phenom, right? But then as his daughters got older and their interest, he was able to take his interests and put those aside and then pour into them as they had their interests with that same sort of like vigor that it takes to be an endurance runner, right? And that's a wonderful thing because they got to see it. They got that drive. They got to like lead by example. They got to see dad do these and mom do these really difficult things. And then, you know, like the kids pursued their careers,
awesome.
in high school sports, let's say, in academics and whatever their interests. But I was like, that's a really cool thing to say, even for you as your kids get older, like, hey, like I don't need to run right now. I've done it. I'm going to do it again. Cause I'm like, there's plenty of 47's the number actually in my mind. I'm like, there's plenty of 47-year-old, like bad mofos, like, and 50-year-olds that will run past you. And I was like, it all is like, it goes in waves. You'll be right back to where you were because you have this at your core. It's so rad, man.
That's so crazy though, to look at as I started to get into the endurance running and the trail running scene, like you look at these guys winning these big races. I mean, 48, 47, 52. Like, I'm like, I'm not even at my prime yet in this sport.
That's why I joke with my wife. I'm like
I'm at the low end of the totem pole here.
47. Did you know that the adult male peaks at 47? Like, we got a little bit.
Yeah, we got some timing. I might be going pro here soon.
I'm like 47, but I've seen it time and time again. And that's one of the things with fitness and the ultra world and people that are in it for longevity too. Like they're able, like it certainly ebbs and flows and there is like no easy button on it, but I'm like, man, it pays dividends. Like, mark my words, it pays dividends. And we'll see. You'll get to see that too.
Yeah.
Even over the course of Crazy Mountain 100. Like, you're going to look forward to your kids cheering for you. Those, like, they're going to make more memories on this vacation.
I know.
Than you could make driving through Yellowstone.
Yeah, exactly.
And like in a line of traffic.
Yeah.
Like they're going to be cheering you on. So kudos for like signing up for it. And just
thanks to you for like pushing me too. Cause I know we talked about it a little bit before I, even got to the point where I was going to sign up and you're like, oh, it's a good one. And cause you were, part of the aid station and stuff, you guys obviously sponsor this and stuff too. And know Megan and all them. And it's been good to just having your guys' podcast listen to training for this, like hearing like her talk about it and stuff like that. I was like, man, I needed some of that good content too, to get prepped up and ready and mindset, ready and those things too. So cool.
I mean, you said it earlier too, because like your wife has that capacity, like like you see it in her and like arguably you can see it in anybody.
Yeah.
Like when it comes down to it and you like,
it's true.
Like you see it, like you're a coach, like, you're able to pick these things out and be aware of them. But like oftentimes the first thing people say when they know you're a runner, right? Runner. And it's a big myth because it's a lot of walking too.
Yeah.
So
a lot of hiking.
There's a lot of hiking. Like it's a lot of like, just, slow walk for a long time.
Endurance.
But they're like, I can never do that. And automatically,
that's the first thing you hear.
That's the first thing. Yeah. Like, I'm like, and it's the same with like a mountain tough workout. Like I can never do that. And I'm like, Yes, you could.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you can. And you are totally capable of doing that. And I'm like, to go set out, like just bring the best out in people, you know?
Yeah.
It comes down to
just got to start slow, work your way up,
Yeah.
man, and you'll get there. You'll get to you'll get to that point where you're like, wow, look at me now.
Yeah.
You know, and it's crazy. That's my life. And I want to see others do that same thing because it's an amazing feeling. So
dude, look in the mirror and be like, yep, I don't want to go back.
No.
For sure. But know that life's going to throw crazy stuff at us and you can make it out of anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Like when it comes down to it. But dude, absolute pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you
for
so
sure.
much. Thanks for inviting me over here, man. This is incredible.
I want to do it after the crazy recap.
We'll do a follow-up.
I was like, I would just love to have like go through the course with you, not having done that full course. I'd love to go through the course. So we'll see if we can line it up. But
we'll do that.
like after the crazy
crazy
recap.
Review.
Yeah.
Even if it's like 10 minutes long, that'd be cool to talk about it.
It would be.
I don't think it's going to be 10 minutes long, just the way we like to talk. So.
Not a chance. I'm like, I think we could ramble for a long time, but no, appreciate you for sure. It's been a pleasure getting to know you, and you're going to do spectacular at the crazy, regardless of outcome. Like it's going to be an awesome experience, no matter what the outcome is. So yeah, cool. But you can't stay at our aid station.
Okay.
Like you can, but you're still going to have to walk out 100 miles anyway. So
you're going to give me a personal pan pizza when I get it?
You got it. Yeah. Whatever you want, man. It's made to order. Well, we got an easy bake oven back there. So
awesome, man. Cool. No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah. Likewise. Sweet.
Let's go.